Hey everybody, this is 22 Tiger Dude and welcome to Animation Domination Reviews. Let's start it off with the Simpsons episode called Steal This Episode. So this episode is about when Homer and Bart team up to illegally download films and show the films they both illegally downloaded in their backyard to show to all of their friends. I really like this episode. I think it's a very well crafted episode. It's really enjoyable, really funny. It was something very unique for The Simpsons. I loved how Bart and Homer did something together, even if it was for something illegal. But I thought it was a nice touch to it. And it was cool to see all of their friends, neighbors come together, go to their backyard and just enjoy the film. I really enjoyed how the plot was handled. The characters were really good. There were some very good lines in there, very funny moments. It's got a well-written storyline. The writers definitely had a lot of ideas going for this episode, and I really credit them for that because it's really creative. I really just thought it was a fantastic episode overall. My only problems with this episode is that here and there the humor is not that great, and I personally wasn't too crazy about the ending. I thought the ending just could have been so much better, and it kind of felt like a waste, especially for how the whole episode was presented. Overall, I give the Simpsons episode Steal This Episode a 9 out of 10. Now I'm here to review the Bob's Burgers episode, Slumber Party. Slumber Party is about when Linda throws Louise a surprise slumber party and invites all of Louise's friends. Well, they're not really friends because Louise really does not like them. But Linda forces Louise to try to be friends with them and have a good slumber party. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it here, everyone. I really hated this episode. More than the Christmas episode, actually. The slumber party literally makes that Christmas episode, Christmas in the Car, look like a masterpiece. Even though that episode is still a crappy episode. I had a hard time finding a positive in Slumber Party, to be honest. The storyline is terrible. It's extremely annoying. Wow. It's horribly executed. It's paced alright. The pacing's fine. In terms of positives, I could say about this terrible episode, I kind of like the Ted plot. A couple of laughs, of course, but other than that, though, I just really hated this episode. It's not well written. It's annoying. It's stupid. It's such a filler. As the episode goes on, it gets more stupider. Also, Louise trying to drive the friend she doesn't like away. That was a filler too. Almost all of the episode was just pure terrible. A couple of entertaining moments as well as funny moments. But that's all I could give this episode in terms of, positives. Yeah. I'm trying to keep my cool here. I really am. This is a big middle finger to the episode. I give it a 2 out of 10. Now I'm here to review the Family Guy episode, Peter Problems. So this episode is about when Peter is just having fun with his forklift. In fact, the first 7 minutes of this episode only focuses on Peter just having a ton of fun, going crazy with it. And then he crashes the forklift at a business meeting. So because of that, of course, what happens? Peter gets fired. Due to the fact that Peter is fired, he hasn't been really himself sexually. What I mean by that is that Peter and Lois can't have their sex because Peter doesn't get, a boner. Yeah. Peter doesn't have a penis. That's the best way to describe it. That was awkward saying it, but that really is the plot. No bullshit. Peter's Problems, I thought was, it's alright. It's not a horrible episode or anything. It's just nothing too special or great. Not an episode I'm going to really remember for the rest of my life. One of the things about this episode I didn't like, though, was definitely just the plot. the plot is so uncomfortable. And how it was handled, it's just not really that funny. Yes, there are some funny moments in this episode. In fact, the first 7 minutes when Peter's using the forklift, it actually does start really funny. I was actually really entertained by it. But since it ran on for 7 minutes, it got more of filler halfway through, and I just wanted him to move on from there. So the fact that the forklift thing ran too long is one of my biggest issues with the episode. The humor, some of them are just so ridiculously over the top, and it's not even funny at all. It's actually terrible. There are some over the top and terrible humor put into here, just did not really entertain me. What Joe and Quagmire had to try to do to help Peter become a man, that's my main way of saying that, was pretty entertaining. And like I said, the episode was pretty entertaining as a whole. It's just not really anything that great, and it definitely does have problems. Peter problems overall, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. It could have been better, but it was alright. And now I'm here to review the American Dad episode, Vision Impossible. So this episode is about when Roger has visions of what's to come in the future before stuff happens, and that's all you really need to know. And yeah, of course, the Smiths, they have their questions. This episode, I will say, was actually really good for the most part. I was really invested in it. I really loved the concept. Roger being able to have these visions was really interesting to me, and I dug this episode. There are funny moments. There is creativity in here as well. It has a well-written plot. Oh yeah, and a car accident is the reason why Roger has these visions. Just wanted to point out why he gets those visions. My flaws with this episode is the Smiths asking Roger questions, like what's going to happen in the future. It does get really annoying, but I was still able to really enjoy it. Now, what really drops this episode is the third and final act. I really hated the third and final act of the episode. It was stupid, it was terrible, it was horribly written, just completely lost me. I was really enjoying it for most of it, and then once the third and final act came, I was done with this episode. Literally, I just wanted this episode to end already, because that final act was pure torture to me. It just had me angry after that. I hated the third act. Even though the final act sucked ass, I still think the overall concept and plot was really good. For the most part, the writers did a really good job handling the concept. It's a bummer that the majority of this episode is so good and it really entertained me, and then the final act happened and it's just all like, fuck this episode, I'm done. I gotta go a 6 out of 10. It would have been a 9 out of 10, but because of that horrible final act, I gotta go a 6 out of 10. I still gave this episode not too bad of a rating.